I am really enjoying the book. I'm just totally sucked into this world. And you know what? This episode actually did a couple things better, I think, than the book. But it also did some really baffling things that I can't believe. I mean, the writers of this dialogue, I mean, they must have no idea how a conversation is supposed to work, let alone how a relationship forms. This is the Sword and the Pen Reflections, my casual alternative to the formal channel, The Sword and the Pen, link up there. I am a freelance editor who has never read the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan, and I've never seen this show on Amazon Prime, but I am reading and watching simultaneously and making comparisons with my editing opinion and also my personal opinion, I gotta admit. Some of this is just how I feel. Today we're looking at Season 1, Episode 3 and its corresponding chapters, which are, I think, chapters 20-ish through chapter 32-ish of The Eye of the World. It's doing things that I have not read yet, and I don't know how far ahead in the books it's supposed to be, or if it happens at all. I think it's probably just stuff that the writers put in, and I'm not sure it was the best idea. So I'm going to be tackling this episode by character group, just looking at their whole arc through each episode, which is what I did for my Shadow and Bone reviews, and it's just a much easier way to do it. So the first group that we're going to look at is Lan-Aeve and Lan and Moiraine. And I have so much to say on this. I have 3 whole pages of my teeny tiny handwriting notes and a script page full of more notes. And then I rewrote this entire episode for these characters. Okay, we're starting off with Lan-Aeve and how she escaped from the Trollocs. And I have to give the credit where it is due. The combination of the practical effects and the CGI was really good here. I mean, it wasn't flawless, but it was dang good for a TV show. The puppetry in the face, oh, that sort of thing gets me. I love it. It was so well done. I mean, was that CGI or was it puppetry? I'm pretty sure it was puppetry. We have the technology to do this sort of thing well, and it's just not used as often as it should be. So good job there. I also liked that when the Trolloc died in the water, it did look like a natural seepage of blood coming up to the surface, but it formed that paisley shape that we keep seeing. So I'm wondering where that's going to come in. So I did catch that. Nice job there. But I did have one small problem with this, and that is 2 things. First of all, when she stabs the Trolloc, she is in this tussle with it, and they both go plunging down into the water, and then there's no splashing at all. Like, the moment that the Trolloc went under the surface of the water, it just gave up and died. And I mean, maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's why Trollocs don't like deep water, because the moment that their head goes underwater, they're like instant flatline. But I just thought that was silly. And it's also so cliche in movies, and we're not buying it. This is something that you do in film to create tension and suspense, like, oh no, who's gonna come up from the surface? Will it be the Trolloc or will it be her? None of us are falling for it. We know that it's gonna be her. Stop doing this. This is so dumb. Anyway, we've established that Lan-Aeve is a survivor, and now the problems begin. This issue that I have with the dialogue that I'm about to discuss here is something that I have seen with many of the scenes in this show, but it hasn't stood out to me quite as obnoxious as this particular scene. And maybe it's because I wanted this scene to work so well, and it did the opposite of what I think it was intended to do for me. I don't know about everybody else, but I came away disliking both of these characters when I think we were supposed to like them more at the end. The goal of this was to take characters physically from point A to point B or D, okay, they're in the forest and we have to get them to this Aes Sedai group. Then we have a relationship goal, and that is to get Lan-Aeve to open up enough and to kind of maybe be a little less opposed to the idea of possibly trusting Lan and Moiraine, at least Lan. Moiraine is she's stage parsley for this entire episode. She just lays there and breathes, which is fine. That's what her character is supposed to be doing. She's unconscious. Oh yeah, and there's also supposed to be an introduction of a spark of possible love interest between Lan-Aeve and Lan. They could not have made it more obvious or done it more clumsily. The way that the dialogue is written here, sometimes it's like the 2 people were not even in the same room having the same conversation with each other, or I'm not even sure what the hell the writers thought were supposed to be going on in their brain. It's like they forgot what happened in the previous episodes, what has been set up, what these characters' goals are, because it was just so freaking nonsensical. Now, I'm not going to do this for every single conversation or character interaction that happens in this episode, but I'm gonna do it for this one because it bugged me so much.
You'd best put seatbelts on your ears, Roy, because I'm gonna take them for the ride of their lives.
I don't know why it bugs me so much that this sort of thing happens in film lately, but I think it's because I have seen such good writing in books that are coming, even indie writers are coming out with beautiful language and wonderful character progression, and I'm just not seeing it on film as much, and it bugs me so much. Like, who's hiring these writers? Did they hire an editor? Because it looks like they didn't. Okay, I've written such extensive notes about this, I'm gonna have to do a lot of reading, but just bear with me because I think what I've got to say, I can't. Okay, what do we know about Lan and Nynaeve? That's what we need to start out with first. Okay, so Lan, he's devoted to Moiraine. He will do everything that he can to protect her. Like, she is his number one top priority, is protect her and care for her, right? And she's hurt right now. And he is doing everything that he can, but it's not helping. She's just getting worse. So that's him. Now, Nynaeve. So she is completely different from the book so far. Now, I think I mentioned this in my first episode or review. I don't know if I did. Maybe I didn't. But either way, it doesn't matter. So in the book, the people of the Two Rivers, they don't like the Aes Sedai. They really think that these guys are bad, that Aes Sedai are evil, which is why Moiraine comes into the town in disguise and no one knows who she is or what she is. They just think she's some like noble lady until the Trollocs attack, and then she starts using magic on them. They're like, holy crap. And then afterwards they're like, oh no, like we didn't know you were an Aes Sedai. We're pissed off at you now. But she's already been going around, protecting people and then healing people. So there's a, like, oh, what do we do? We thought that you were bad, but it turns out you've been doing good things. So they kind of let her be. There's also the story of the Manetheren that she tells to kind of wake them up out of their really shameful behavior. But anyway, our understanding is that Nynaeve has this same attitude towards Moiraine and the Aes Sedai in general. And that would make this interaction make sense. The one that we see in the show, the one that between her and Lan. However, that's not what they have set up in the show. In the show, everybody seems to just be kind of wary and suspicious of the Aes Sedai, but reverent. I mean, as soon as she walks in, as soon as Moiraine walks into the inn, everybody knows she's an Aes Sedai because they can see the ring. And the innkeeper's like, yes, Moiraine Sedai, and like takes her up to her room, like whatever you want, we'll do. And everybody's like eyeballing her like, dang, she's suspicious. But they don't think that she is evil, which is what they think in the book. So Nynaeve and Moiraine have a conversation where Nynaeve says, my master, the wisdom who raised me, walked as a child all the way to the White Tower, and it took her months, and she got there and everybody basically just laughed at her for being poor and dirty and whatever and sent her marching on her way. So Nynaeve has grown up very prejudiced against the Aes Sedai, but she herself didn't experience any of this prejudice firsthand. This is literally just her going off of the reputation that she was informed of by her master. Okay, now let's take the situation that we're in. So Lan can't move Moiraine, so he's stuck there and can't do anything with her. And Nynaeve has gotten free of the Trolloc, and we assume that she went back to the Two Rivers and found out, or what was the name of the town that they were in? I can't remember the name of the town. She goes back to the town, and the townspeople must have told her, well, this lady, the Aes Sedai woman, said that one of these 4 kids is the Dragon Reborn and that the Trollocs were after them, so they all left together because if they didn't leave, the Trollocs would have come right back here again. So that's why the Trollocs are following. So she must have been following them like that with all of this in mind, that Moiraine is, maybe untrustworthy, but at least she should know at this point the Trollocs did not re-attack the town and took off with the kids. In the book, however, the kids sneak off in the night. So Moiraine gets the town to not want to kill her and is like, yeah, we're going to stay the night basically. And she tells Rand and those kids privately, not in public as they do in the show, that one of them is the Dragon Reborn and they need to get away to save the town, and tells them to leave notes for their family saying where they're going. So that way it's not this big send-off like we saw in the show, everybody kind of watching them leave. So in the book, she does seem to steal away with them in the night, but not in the show. But of course, in the book also, Rand's father is the only one of the parents who knows what's going on and actually seems to trust that the Aes Sedai was telling the truth about all of this. And he sort of advocates for what has happened off screen. Off page, I mean. So that's the situation that we're in. Before we continue, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting, even with just an emoji. It's a free way for you to support the channel, and for me, it might bring in some money from all the commercials they keep putting on my videos. Now let's get back to it. Now, how do we introduce these two characters, Lan and Nynaeve? Well, Lan is taking care of Moiraine, and Nynaeve holds a knife to his throat, and this is the beginning of the nonsense. First of all, I'm not really sure why she's doing this, except maybe that she thought he would flip out at being so startled and turn around and kill her. But so approach slowly from the behind and hey, are you Lan and Moiraine? I'm looking for the kids that you guys took. I want an explanation for what's going on. Because remember, she doesn't think that they're evil witches. She just thinks she's just suspicious of them and doesn't know what's going on. So she would just come up and question, right? We'd assume. So she starts out this interaction by holding a knife to his throat, demanding to know where the kids are, then refusing to help Moiraine, the one person who can tell her where the kids are, because she obviously doesn't know, otherwise she wouldn't be asking. And then she ends it by trying to kill Lan.
That made no sense.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through this line by line. I have to do this. I just have to. Nynaeve says, "Where are my friends? Are they alive? I won't ask again." Lan says, "They're not here. How did you find me?" Now, Lan saying, "How did you find me?" didn't bug me when I first watched this episode. I've watched it 9 times now. I'm not kidding. I mean, the first time I watched it nicely, but all the other 8 times I was taking care of my niece and my nephew who broke his leg. So it was interrupted many times. But anyway, so this line didn't bother me the first time that I watched this because I assumed that he was worried that, okay, if she was able to track me, maybe one of my saddlebags has a hole in it and it's leaving a trail of breadcrumbs or something. I gotta fix that. But that's not why he's asking her, and we don't know that until a scene later. So then we go on. Nynaeve goes, "What did she do to them?" And, about Moiraine. And Lan goes, "You think you know this world. You know nothing."
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
I could get into just how awkward him immediately jumping to "you think you know this world," but he's immediately trying to start an argument with her. I mean, she started this whole encounter very aggressively, and now he is turning right around and turning it into aggressive back. And he says, "The Dark One is coming for your friends, and Moiraine has fought his forces with everything she has." Then Nynaeve says, "If she cares about them so much, then why did she leave them?" How does she know that Moiraine left them? She wasn't there to see that Moiraine left them. This makes no sense for her to assume that she knows that they left. She said her first question was, what did she do to them? So she might be, the thing that I thought was rolling in her head was, did she torture them and kill them? Or did she destroy them in some way? Not that she left them. This is the writers assuming that the characters know what the audience knows. But the characters can't know what the audience knows because the characters weren't in that scene. What she should have said is, "I don't care what Moiraine has done to the dark forces. Where are my friends now?" And then we get to this line where she's just accused him of, why did she leave them? And Lan says, "She didn't, I did." And I think that was the whole goal of the conversation up to this point, was how do we get Lan to say this particular line? But they did a really sloppy job of getting to it. And I'm going, why was this line so important?
Why would you do all that?
Because it's cool.
It just doesn't make any sense to me, and yet it's the only conclusion left to me. Then we get Lan going, she can't move, let alone find them in her condition. He's saying this assuming that Nynaeve knows that the Aes Sedai can find them. So he's already established you think you know what's going on in the world, but you obviously don't know everything. But then here he's assuming that she knows that the Aes Sedai are capable of this sort of thing. But then he's making this assumption, which does kind of make sense because she has approached them demanding to know where her friends are. And the moment that Lan said, they're not here with us, she wanted them to tell her where they are. So she obviously does think that they can tell her. The logic is gone. Besides, at this point, Lan should be negotiating with her. He should be saying, you know, Moiraine could find them if she was healed, if she was awake. You're a healer. Why don't you heal her? And then she can help you find your friends. Like, that's how this part of the conversation should have gone. But it's as if these two people are sending telegrams to each other, and there's a lot of information being missed between. They're just making assumptions of what the other person knows. And it's not believable conversation. But then Nynaeve goes, you think I'm going to help her? And then Lan says, you will if you want to help your friends. Now, first of all, Lan is low-key trying to coerce her. Again, this is not a way to convince somebody to help you when you're desperate for helping your Aes Sedai lady. And then Nynaeve should already know what he just said. Like, you should help her if you want to have help finding your friends. You'll heal her if you want help finding your friends. When he's already indicated to her that, yeah, if you help her, like, she could find them, but she's unconscious. Like, there's no, like, do these characters not have any sense of logic? I mean, seriously, Nynaeve needs to know where her friends are. She has indicated she doesn't know how to find them. Moiraine, which Lan has indicated does know how to find them and can find them, is unconscious. So Nynaeve, if you want to know where your friends are, you want Moiraine to tell you, you have to heal her. I mean, this is all a very cliche game of chicken between these two where you have two wills battled against each other. And it's just not being played off very well because neither of them looks intelligent in this exchange. Because then we've got Lan approaching her and her continuing to hold the blade to his throat and saying, don't move. And he goes, you and I both know that you won't do that. And then she actually tries to kill him because she's clearly psychotic. And then he, turns on his warder powers finally and just takes care of the issue. So he knocks her out and ties her to a tree and gags her because what were his options? She's clearly unstable. I mean, he can't even have a conversation with her and she's trying to kill him. Of course, he wasn't helping the situation by egging on a person who's obviously unstable. This sort of writing is what makes characters really, really hard to like because they're just so illogical. They make no sense. Their behavior has no reason behind it. It's as if they're just doing things because the writers thought, wouldn't it be cool if they did this? And it doesn't make sense why they are doing this. I mean, you can do that. I have done this before. I've gone, ooh, wouldn't it be really cool if I had these characters do this? Think of, okay, I know I keep bringing it up, but everybody knows the story. So Harry Potter. I think J.K. Rowling said, what if I had a little kid who is the chosen one, but a piece of the Dark Lord is actually inside of him, and the only way for him to kill the Dark Lord is for him to die also. And then she built the story up to that point so that it would all make sense by the time you get to the end. You can do this. You can do it even in this condensed form with just a scene. But this is just not the way that you do it. When nothing makes sense like this, characters are really hard to care about because you just know, all right, everything up to here has been nonsensical. So why should I bother worrying about what's going to happen to them in the future? Why should I even take an interest? Because all signs point to a destination of continued nonsense. And that's very unsatisfying. Okay, next, this whole sequence where she's tied to the tree and he gives her the water and they have a talk. This conversation should have been cut entirely from this episode. Lan says, are you ready to help now? And Nynaeve says, if I help her, she best give me the answers I want. And Lan goes, are you really in a position to be making demands? And Nynaeve goes, it's not a demand, it's a threat. She's gonna die without treatment. You know that. I don't see another wisdom around here, do you? This is atrocious. Did the writers remember what they wrote in the previous scene? Because I don't think that they did. It is the most valueless exchange, battle of wills I have seen in a long time. Lan holds all the best cards. He has tied her up and gagged her. He's proven that he can best her in a struggle. And the only thing that he wants is for her to heal Moraine. Nynaeve literally has nothing over Lan except that she could heal Moraine. And I know that it seems like, oh, that's a big deal, but the thing is that the thing that she wants are answers which she can only get if she heals Nynaeve. Did she forget this? Did Lan forget this? Because they are both talking as if they both forgot this. Nynaeve can't get what she wants unless she does what Lan wants first. I mean, what's she gonna do? Heal Moraine and then like, you better give me the answers, and if Moraine says no, well then I'm gonna kill you. You think that Lan's just gonna let that happen? He just proved that you couldn't possibly do that. He will protect her. So at this point, Lan, it just seems like Lan is being very diplomatic about this, and Nynaeve just looks vindictive and dumb. Like, she forgot that she's literally threatening him. If you don't let me do what you want, I'll not do what you want. Like, what? I can only assume that Lan is literally just playing along with her. Like, oh, you got me. I better just, let you do the one thing that I want you to do for me. Like, what is going on? If the show was trying to have a battle of wills here where Lan is the loser, they failed because Lan is the winner. He is getting exactly what he wants, and he who had the power the entire time. Immediately, from Nynaeve's very first line, "Where are my friends?" we know he's the only one who can deliver on that answer. It doesn't matter that she has a blade to his neck. I don't think that she could have killed him even in the position that he was in. I just don't believe it. Because remember, the only way that she got the Trolloc was by stealing its blade from behind, sneaking up and getting it, basically. They weren't facing each other. And as we see, when she is facing Lan and Lan is facing her and she tries to kill him, he still wins. So at the end of this scene, with Nynaeve having her nose up in the air, like, I don't see any other wisdoms around here, do you? She just looks so delusional and stupid. It's so bad. Nynaeve in the book is not this bad at all. So I'm gonna read this note that I wrote. In Nynaeve's mind, she is still right about the Aes Sedai. So this is after this scene. She's still right about the Aes Sedai. And she is better than they are, which would give her no reason after this point to suddenly change her mind on her opinions of the Aes Sedai or their warders. It's as if the writers have no understanding of how psychology works. If someone is delusional or has a false belief and is demonstrating stubborn arrogance and pride in that belief, validating that delusion or false belief is only going to strengthen their convictions. And more often than not, it throws them further down into the pit of their delusion or false belief. It also encourages that person to extend their illogic into other areas of judgment because you're rewarding their poor judgment. You are literally teaching this person not to question their own bad thinking. So when we see Nynaeve have this subtle change after this point, it makes no sense. This is not how people work. Okay, but then he lets her go and we see this mystical music playing and the cinematography is kind of mysterious and beautiful. I thought we were going to get a montage of really cool stuff that wisdoms know about the forest. Instead, all we got her was picking one flower and 1 square inch of bark off of a tree. That was it. Because everything else about this scene was Lan really badly wanting to know, how did you track me? So he's looking at her, all casually leaning up against the tree, fidgeting, like, so, how'd you track me? Lan, you don't really look concerned about Moraine anymore. I mean, I know she's unconscious, so she can't really go anywhere, but you know what? She's on the ground, and I'm sure bugs aren't crawling all over her or little rodents coming to eat her ears off of her face. Did he forget that Moraine is his #1 priority in life, and especially in this moment of her ultimate vulnerability? She is dying. And then we have this wonderful little exchange. So she goes, you don't have to stand there like that. I'm not going to run off. Fine. You want to ask, so just ask. And he says, you said you tracked me all the way from the Two Rivers to Shadar Logoth. How? And she says, said you could ask, not that I'd answer. It's as if she asked him just so that she could have this moment of him admitting he wants to know something so she could withhold it from him.
Hey, kid. Would you like a Hershey bar?
Oh, yes, please, Dainton.
So would I, kid. Have you got one?
This is literally the behavior of somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. Good people who aren't friends don't do this. You would have to be on bro level with this guy to tease them like this, and it's funny. This was not funny, and it wasn't cute. And Lan just looks like a sucker now, too. I mean, this whole thing was supposed to be, I mean, it's so clumsy. You can see that they're trying to show, like, oh, this is the two very strong-willed characters are going to suddenly see each other's good sides and there's going to be a mutual respect for each other, and they kind of tease each other. And it doesn't come across like that at all. You just feel like, Lan, you're acting like a sucker, and Nynaeve, you are acting like a vindictive brat. So just a quick note, in the book, Nynaeve has actually been with the Fellowship for a little while, like before Shadar Logoth. She was able to track Egwene because she has healed Egwene before. So what she got from the Two Rivers to this town that they meet up in because she created an affinity subconsciously with Egwene by healing her. So that's how she was able to find Egwene. Then they all travel together, Nynaeve with the gang, to Shadar Logoth, and that's when they get separated. And she finds so they're separated, and Nynaeve sees these tracks in the ground, and she doesn't know if they're Trollocs or whatever, and then she smells a campfire. She follows the smell of the campfire, and there they are, Lan and Moraine, and she's kind of spying on them for a little while. But then Moraine instantly sees her, and then so she comes in there, she's talking to them like, okay, you found me, or whatever. But she's still like in her head, like, well, you'll never find my horse because I'm really good at this. I know what I'm doing. And Lan disappears and like minutes later comes back with the horse, and he doesn't even look like it was a big deal. Like he didn't even realize she had hid the horse. Like, and she gets so upset about it that she actually cries. She's upset that it seemed like to Lan, her best effort, he didn't even notice that she was trying anything. What they were doing here was they were trying to take Nynaeve down a peg and let her know that you don't know everything about the world. Your preconceptions of what everything are might not be right, and maybe you should question them a little bit. So it opens her up to the possibility of learning something from these people and maybe getting something from them, whereas in the show, it just seems she's like, I'm right and you guys are wrong, and there's no reason for her to like them at all, because in her head, they're bad. So it's nonsensical. Okay, so then Nynaeve starts working on Moraine, but she goes, this poison, it's not like anything that I've seen before, and I'm worried that, and she says nothing. And then Lan, like, okay, so it's obvious that she's like, I've tried my best, and I'm not sure that I can do it. She actually looks like she's like, I feel really bad, but I don't think I can do anything to help Moraine. And Lan starts like, okay, I'm gonna go look for help. I mean, it's obvious that's what he's gonna go do. And she goes, where are you going? What happened to watching my every move? Stop bringing that up. And Lan goes, you'll keep her safe. You need to. You're just realizing this now? I mean, why didn't you seem aware of this before, Lan? And then Nynaeve goes, don't be so sure.
I want you to have some balls and act like you care about me! You need to stop being such a bitch!
I mean, was there no growth in this conversation at all? Apparently not. So Lan goes off, finds what appears to be a campsite, then says, all right, I know where we need to go. I found the help we're looking for, and they pack everybody up and they go. And the next scene that we see them together, they're approaching the Aes Sedai camp, or the Aes Sedai troop that's on the move. And Nynaeve goes, we've been heading south for 3 hours now. You care to tell me why? You waited 3 hours before you decided to ask this question? This is so sloppy and amateurish. Like, it's so bad. This conversation would have happened before. She shouldn't have said anything like this. I mean, it still would have been sloppy and amateurish, but less so if something like Lan goes, this is the part where you need to, just stay quiet. Remember what we said. or what I said, something like that. You know, like they have already talked about this and she knows she shouldn't really talk, right? But she should already know where they're headed. Otherwise, they just marched for 3 hours and she decided not to ask where they were going until the end of the 3 hours. And my final note at this point is, who the hell is this guy in the cage? In the show, I don't think it has been mentioned at all. Now, it has in the book. We know that there's a guy who's been calling himself the dragon and leading an army and people are flocking to him. But in the show, no. So I thought this guy was the same guy that they were chasing in the very first scene with the red ladies going, you should be happy, you know, thanking me for doing whatever I'm going to do to you. And that's not him. I had to go back and look at it. It wasn't him. So I don't know who this guy is, but I'm pretty sure it's Logain, right? But it seems that the writer forgot that the audience doesn't know who this is. So when we see the guy, we're going like, who the hell is that? It's not anything suspenseful. But do you see how this is just so bizarre? This writing is just so, it doesn't make sense. I was so upset about this scene that I rewrote this scene. Not this scene, but the whole encounter between Lan and Nynaeve leading up to them getting to the camp. I rewrote it. And I'm going to give it its own video because I think that what I managed to write in one afternoon is way better than this very expensive show managed. I mean, did they even have an editor look at what they wrote? I don't think so, because an editor definitely would have looked at this and said, no, this is not going to work. So check back in a couple of days to see if I've uploaded that. Hopefully I'll have it up before my next episode review. We'll see how that goes. But if it's up already, there's a link right there or down in the description also. Moving on, though, to Mat and Rand. First of all, why did you wait until you were, like, miles away from Shadar Logoth before you started looking for the others? It just seems like this is not the right way to do this. And this exchange was fine. I thought that Mat was totally in the right. Like, don't be shouting around when we know there's Trollocs out there and they could come and kill us. But then we've got Rand teasing Mat, but it really comes across as just being mean. Mat is freezing his ass off because all he has is this linen cardigan, whereas Rand has a fleece-lined coat that looks windproof, the leather, right? And Rand is like, you complaining about the cold? Yes, because he's wearing a linen cardigan.
Who is he? He's an asshole, sir.
Then we get into this mining town, which I think is what was it called? 3 Kings or 4 Kings? I don't remember. In some town in the book that was like this. Okay. Then we get introduced to Tom Merrilin, who is a gleeman. And although I think this actor looks pretty cool, he's not giving me the Tom Merrilin vibes until much later. We have some conversation with him. I just imagine Tom Merrilin being more boisterous and like he's a performer in front of other people instead of this like kind of shady, like mysterious, gravelly voiced guy who then has these very deep, meaningful conversations with the boys. I liked all those conversations, especially with Mat. But this is a different characterization of this guy, and I was looking forward to having some levity in here, having somebody who kind of brightens things up a little bit, but that's okay, whatever. This is what the show has decided to do. But this song was so freaking boring to me, and I've decided to give this subject its own video as well. I don't know when I'll be able to upload it, maybe a little bit after my next video, but this was done poorly. We literally stop all of the storytelling to have a guy who we don't know and don't care about in the show because we don't know who he is, at least the people who haven't read the books don't know, to just stop and sing a song. And the song's lyrics are not that beautiful. The subject matter means hardly anything. I mean, I don't think it really means anything to anybody, not the audience who's watching the show and hasn't read the books. I mean, I picked up on, oh, this is about the old dragon, you know, and like we saw in the prologue. But the thing is it's supposed to be this deeply emotional song, and I'm just going, we're sitting there for 2 whole minutes of this guy just singing a song and nothing else happening. And it's not even like a funny or upbeat or really interesting song. Like there's nothing about this scene. There's nothing else happening. That is bad. I mean, you need to have something else happening to break this up. Otherwise, you're just sitting there wondering when it's going to end, which is what I was doing. I'm sorry, but this sort of thing bugs the hell out of me because you can do this right. You can have a guy in a bar, and this actually called to mind a very particular mining-ish type grungy town where a guy gets up on a stool and starts singing a song and everybody stops to listen.
James, the man they call James.
robbed from the rich.
But that is still broken up with conversation to kind of, you know, separate, like you don't have to sit there and stare for 2 minutes. And also the lyrics are telling us about something really relevant to us as the viewers. The lyrics are talking about a guy that we know and talking about him and in a way that makes us go, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like that guy at all. Where the hell did this song come from? So anyway, you get the idea. This song was just boring and I didn't like it. I thought it was a very poor choice. They should have had the boys stop and talk about maybe this is our history. You know, something like even that. I don't know, just something, whatever. I'm gonna give that subject its own video. Look back for it. If it's already out, I'll have the link right there or in the description. Okay, then we've got Matt and Rand don't want to tip Tom. And then he shows that he has pickpocketed the pickpocket who picked Matt's pocket, and he basically tips himself by paying for his drink. And then they're like, okay, give me back my purse. But Tom decides he's going to keep your entire purse as like a, you know, this is the fee for your life lesson.
He's an asshole too, sir. Gun is made first class Philip asshole.
I never saw Tom Maryland as being like this, but I guess that's how he is now in the show. Then in the next scene, we've got Rand teasing Matt about not having enough money to pay for a room. Like, I have enough money, but you moron, you got pickpocketed.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
So Rand negotiates with Dana, the barmaid, to let them chop some wood in exchange for a place to stay for the night. So they're out in the back ready to chop wood. Rand notices that Matt was making flirty eyes at Dana and turns to him and goes, "Isn't she a little bit young for you?" And yeah, he does elaborate that I thought Moraine was more your style or whatever, more your flavor. But the thing is this, I looked back, I actually rewound and watched the other episodes leading up to this. At no point did Matt ever look at Moraine like he was intrigued by her. I don't think there's even a moment where we see him looking at her. Same thing within the town. There were no other older women that he was going after. He only went after one chick where he stole her bracelet and she didn't look old to me. So where did this joke come from? It made no sense. This was not an inside joke. It was literally a joke that just came out of left field for no reason. And because of that, it landed flat. It was not funny. It was stupid. Then Matt goes, "You know what? I'm just gonna leave this chopping wood up to you because it's your fault that you're the one who suggested we do this, and it's your fault that we're in this town anyway."
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Okay, I get it. It's sort of like the One Ring, this dagger that he has stolen is turning him evil and making him irritable and stuff like that. But now we've got two jerks. Of course, Matt ends it with saying, you know, we don't really have to be here. Like, the only reason we're here is because you want to keep going to the White Tower for Egwene's sake. But the thing is, Egwene would never have done this for you.
Keep firing, assholes!
At this point, I don't like either of you guys. Rand, you've been a jerk to Matt this whole time, so you kind of deserved it. So have at it. Then you got Matt trying to flirt his way with Dana into a free bed, which doesn't work, and she humiliates him in front of everybody, and he takes it well. Then we have Matt and Tom Maryland doing their thing over by the caged guy, and Matt is gonna steal the jewel. And I actually really liked this encounter. This, to me, was more like what Tom Maryland is like. And we're also getting some information about a culture that I hope we're going to see. I forget what they're called. The alien, I can't remember what they're called, but you know what I mean. The red-haired people, which in the book, we've already gotten a hint about this, that Rand is one of those because he has red hair. And I was glad that at least they have him have red hair in the show, because it turns out I'm thinking this is important that he has red hair. And that does become relevant once we get to the end of this episode. So we have Dana flirting with Rand in the room, and then she reveals that she's a dark friend and she has trapped him in there, and the door is shut and 3 men couldn't bust that door down. But Rand taps into some physical strength. It's possibly he's doing some, I forget what it's called when the Aes Sedai do their power, except it's like the male version, and busts down the door. Either that or it's from his heritage as a red-haired person. If those people are supposedly like really badass warriors and mysterious, so maybe this is part of why they're so dangerous, is because they're super strong, because he busts the door down. So at least they've tied in that relevance there, right? But I just have to say, Dana, you were not very smart in trapping Rand, because you just had to walk out, just be like, oh, no, I'm sorry, I flirted with you and it was not well received. I'm just gonna go. You stay in the room here, this will be fine. And Matt would have eventually made his way back to that room, and then she could lock them in there. So she was pretty dumb there. But I think what they wanted to do is have this moment where Rand busts down the door, okay? So here's what you should have done. You should have had them having a conversation. Maybe it's a little bit flirty, maybe it's something else, but something that Dana says should have set Rand off to like, I didn't tell her about this thing. How does she know about this thing? Could it have been from Matt and like kind of known maybe Matt wouldn't have said it? Or just something that she said would have been off and he would have been suspicious enough to be like, I think I want to go, but he doesn't have to be obvious like that. Even he could be smart about it and be like, he's uncomfortable and decides, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. But she's caught on that he seems uncomfortable and maybe has figured it out, so then she locks the door. Like, that is how this scene should have played out, because then you would have had two people who are actually behaving smart, just one of them is sloppier at it than the other, and then they end up in this situation. But in this, you have Dana totally blowing her cover and ruining the trap. Stupid characters. Stupid characters are so unlikable. They were made stupid so that things in a scene could happen. That is what is happening here. And that is just, ugh. I'm actually really happy that they changed this little thing from the book. So although I liked the book, how, they go to the Four Kings and there's the guy who comes in and everybody knows there's something off about this guy. And then that guy catches them in their room and tries to get them, and then lightning strikes the guy and blows out the wall, basically, and they escape. I liked this, but it was better for me that they didn't have Matt and Rand doing this thing in the book where they're singing for their food and their room and board, because that's not believable. So I don't know if Robert Jordan has ever tried to teach somebody how to play an instrument, but I don't think you learn well enough to be as good as Matt and Rand were portrayed in the book. So Tom Marilyn, they've been journeying together since the Two Rivers, but after Shadar Logoth, he starts teaching the two boys how to play musical instruments because they're pretending that these two boys want to be gleemen. And so he's like training them, right? I don't think they've been together for months. And even if they had been for like, let's say it was 2 months that they've been traveling together like this, you don't learn enough on a flute and you don't learn enough cool juggling tricks to be able to do much in a month's time. Even if they were training like all day, you just wouldn't be that entertaining at the end. People wouldn't be cheering for you and like, yay, I hope you're gonna come out and sing for us some more. Hope you're gonna juggle, do some more cool tricks. It was not really believable that they would be as loved as they are. I mean, yes, I could see them singing for their food or like as it's implied, but they wouldn't be as successful at it as they are shown to be. So I thought it was a good change to not have that be in the show, because to me, it just wasn't believable. The only reason I could see it not being a good idea to not have that in the show is if this is important later. Like, it's really important that they learned how to play an instrument and entertain people and juggle and stuff like that later on. I don't know how that could become important. Maybe it is. And the final scene with Rand and Matt was Dana like saying that, I just want, I'm a dark friend and I've called an eyeless here already. I want the dragon to reset the world, to stop this ongoing cycle of misery and stuff. But the only misery she has described up to this point is that she feels like she's trapped in this town and everybody in this town knows everything about her. And she even indicates that she has made decisions that have kept her trapped in this town. Like, it's her fault that she's here. But she wants the dragon to reset it so that she can have a fresh start. So she doesn't want to just make different decisions that will make her life better. Okay. But also, that's just not a very good reason to want to destroy the world. I think it would have been a lot better if, first of all, they don't have her monologuing like this, because this is such a tropey thing. Again, I hate it when the villain monologues and tells you all their reasons. Like, I'm doing this because of this reason, and oh my gosh, my life is hard, and blah, blah, blah. And then what happens? The exact thing that the Incredibles taught us you should do, which is take advantage of them being so distracted by their own speech that they get killed. So she gets killed, Tom Marilyn saves the day, and they escape. Hooray. But what they should have done is had Matt, while he's serving the beers and stuff in the bar, kind of forming little relationships with the other people there. And they all say, are telling him about Dana, who's had this really tough life. Like maybe her mother was killed by a stranger who came into the town, and then the town pounces on the stranger and, kills him, but it didn't stop her from hurting. And then she had to take over the bar because her dad is basically a drunk, right? And this would have made him really feel bad for her because he knows what that's like because of his parents, right? His parents, or his father, well, his mother is a drunk, apparently. I don't know about the father, but he's a loser and a gambler, it sounds like. So that he would have suddenly felt this understanding and bond with her, and we learn this information about her, right? Then when you get to this encounter at the end, all she has to do is say that she wants the dragon to be found by the Dark One so he can reset the world, not be destroyed, which is what she thinks that the Aes Sedai are going to do. She could even try to convince him, I'm trying to save you, because the Aes Sedai will just kill you if you don't reset the world, but resetting the world is the best thing. Like, just find a way to say that nice and concisely, or to imply that, and then Matt can be like, I know that the world seems like a horrible place, but it didn't make you feel better to have he doesn't have to say it didn't make you feel better to have justice done, but he could bring up that he heard what happened, and, she could have like a moment of doubt and then get killed by Tom. And that would have been nice, because then you would have been like, oh, we were kind of understanding why she's doing this for a split second there, but then he killed her. Like, that would have more conflict. But she's like, she's evil, okay? But we're supposed to feel sorry for her, even though her reasons for wanting to destroy the world are not very good. Like, they're definitely not justifiable. Then she gets killed. So, okay, she's dead. You were trying to create some sympathy for this character. It fell flat, and then you killed her. So we're like, whatever, we don't care. How about create a real reason to feel sorry for her, and then put some doubt in our mind when we see that she's actually evil? Like, maybe she's not fully evil and maybe she thinks she's on the right side? That would have been way more effective. By the way, if you're craving more Wheel of Time first-time reader and viewer comparisons like this, check out Reading with Rebecca Nicole's channel. She and I are buddy reading this in the Discord, and her videos are a bit more concise and organized than mine. On to Perrin and Egwene. I have to say, Perrin's acting, the actor who plays Perrin, he wins for best performance in this. I really felt in his trembling voice and his frustration. I mean, everything that he was supposed to be feeling was being very effectively conveyed in just these little noises that he was making. And he's going, he's trying to start the fire, and he's cold and he's tired and he's struggling to get the spark going, and he feels this impossible responsibility of like, I have to protect us and provide for us and take care of us. And at the same time, he's got the weight of how he not only failed to protect his wife, but also killed her. And that's all on top of him. And you just hear his voice like, I'm sorry. And he accidentally cuts himself, which I think might have been real, and which that was great to keep that in. But I just really felt that. And he does it a couple of times in the Perrin Egwene arc for this episode. But otherwise, I felt like almost nothing happened in their arc, and but some stuff did happen that needs to be talked about. First of all, why did they take shelter in the middle of open plain? It's like under this tree root. You're not going to be sheltered from the wind. You're never going to start a fire there. I'm sorry, that was dumb. Also, just the character of Perrin, I'm really enjoying in the show. We don't get a whole lot from him. Well, okay, no, we do get in his head, but for me, somehow, this actor's performance is really shining through for me. I am seeing the agony that he is in, and I'm liking it. I actually really like that they are showing this pain that he's in, and his determination to be the protector and the provider, and also having this feeling of being a failure because of his wife thing. He's the only pure soul in the whole gang. He is the only one who I feel like has not done anything bad or wrong, and he's just trying to do good. He's always putting other people ahead of him. So when they were in Shadar Logoth, he like comforts Matt saying like, I'm sure that your sisters are going to be fine. Like, everybody's going to be looking after them. And here he's trying to comfort Egwene, and Egwene, thank goodness, she recognizes what he is doing. She's finally stopped being so self-consumed that she recognizes what's going on here. So Egwene was actually very likable in this scene as well. Her noticing him trying so hard to help her and provide for her and protect her, and her seeing that effort and that struggle and that pain and recognizing it and being sympathetic towards it. That was great. This was a really good interaction between these two. Perrin's dream was good also. So in the book, all the dreams are kind of like this. They're full of a lot of symbolism that you're thinking something's gonna come back. We're gonna see this. Now, really the only thing I saw here was you got the wolf eating his wife's intestines, and then she looks at Perrin and says, I know. I don't know what she says that she knows, but I like the idea of the wolf eating what he did, this act of violence that he did. I thought that was a good little bit of symbolism. It's sort of mysterious and makes you wonder, how is this going to play out? But then we get, by far, the worst chase scene I have seen in a big budget show or movie, maybe ever. So typically when you have a chase scene, you want to have they start at point A and they end at point B. But between A and B, there are obstacles, there's something that they have to overcome, and then they get to B, right? Instead, what this show did was just go back and forth between showing people running and wolves running, people running and wolves running. And point A is we are in an open plain, and then we go into the forest, and then point B is we're in an open plain that looks exactly like where they were in the beginning. I have no sense of there was movement here other than the fact that I saw people running. I just have to walk you guys through this because it's so ridiculous. So I'm going to put it here. You'll watch. So we got people running, okay, overhead. And we see the people running. And we see wolves running. Forest, people running. People running, wolves running. People running. 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 And they're out in the field. And it looks exactly like where they ended up. It was, they didn't even like have a moment where they tried to hide from the wolves or climb up in a tree, or they had to suddenly get over like this great big, like maybe there was I don't know what it's called, but it's when there's a shift in the layout of the land where suddenly it's like there's a shelf they have to climb up onto, like a little mini cliff. Nothing to make this interesting. It's just people running, wolves running. This is bad editing. It was so boring. It should not have been, I think it was over 45 seconds long. It's a very long time to just stare at that. Then they come across tracks in the ground and realize that they're heading kind of eastward towards where they want to go. And Egwene comes to this conclusion, it's as if the wolves led us here. Well, first of all, they didn't leave you there. They supposedly drove you there, like when you drive cattle. But yeah, it's hard to tell that they actually went anywhere in the first place. This was bad. So they follow these tracks and they don't know if they're following a group of good people or a group of bad people. So they decide that they're just gonna keep an eye on the road ahead and like avoid, being seen by them, even though they're in the middle of a field, like a big long plain. Then they come to a point where there's a forest up ahead and it's kind of misty and they're like, okay, anybody could be hiding in there. So they stand there out in the middle of a field. Perrin's like, I'll go ahead and make sure that it's safe. And he does a very nice job performing this, that actor and Egwene. It's very nicely performed. But their situation is so stupid. They're in the middle of a field looking at a forest saying anybody could be hiding in there. We better go and sneak up and, I'll make sure it's safe before we go in. You are not safe in the middle of a field where anybody can see you. This reminded me of Bambi. Like, even Bambi and his mother knew better than to go out into the meadow before leaving the safety of the forest. They should have been off in the trees watching the road going, okay. Stupid. Now, in the book, at this point, Perrin has they both have met this guy, Elias? Is that how you say his name? I can't remember his name. But he is essentially a wild man who can commune and communicate with the wolves telepathically. And if this guy's not super important to the rest of the story, I can understand that they're going to cut him out, but they've got to figure out a way to get Perrin to be more open to, okay, now I'm going to commune with the wolves too. And this guy teaches them how to not be seen. I mean, they're bad at it in the show. They were bad at it in the book too, but this guy teaches them, like, you hide and look out ahead and make sure that it's safe. And you only go if you're sure it's safe, or you hide as you're going to these places. He drills it into them. It was a bit repetitious in the book, so I thought it would have been fine to condense that a little bit more. But this was what the purpose of this guy was, to show them how to be sneaky out in the open like this. So they needed that, and they didn't get it. So I hope that they get it. But anyway, so they go into the forest, and they're immediately surrounded by the Tuatha'an, who are extremely creepy. They start reciting their song, and like, you know, do you know the song? And it was very awkward and weird. And in the book, it didn't come across this way. It wasn't the best in the book either, but it just wasn't like this. So essentially, they tell Perrin and Egwene, you guys can travel with us. Everybody who is, you know, brought to our fires can have food and blanket and shelter. You're welcome to eat with us and travel with us. And that's the end of this encounter. Now, in the book, this whole thing with the Tuatha'an, you basically just learn about what their culture is, where they are pacifists and they like to dance and party a lot. But they're peaceful people, and they just travel a lot. But they don't kill anybody. And if somebody wants to try to kill them, then they just run away or they die. Like, that's their philosophy. And this is not a sustainable lifestyle in a barbaric world like this Wheel of Time world. Like, they would just be hunted down by robbers who would kill them eventually. Like, this is how they would cease to exist. This is why martial arts, different styles and schools of martial arts began, is because you had monasteries that were pacifist and then realized we're getting our asses kicked by robbers who show up to like take our stuff. So they all developed these defensive martial arts, and each one had their own style. Like that was the only way that they were able to live this way. And then you have pacifists in European culture. So we've got nuns and priests and monks and stuff, right? But they were very well protected, typically by the monarchy. So this is just not a sustainable way for these people to live. I didn't really believe it at all that this, anyway, you get what I'm saying. There's sort of a hint that they only survive like this because they go off into a wilderness where most people wouldn't even dare to go because it's so difficult and dangerous difficult to survive and dangerous and whatnot. But okay, fine. So maybe that's how they survive. But anytime they came into town, people would be coming after them. Especially if most folks think that they're running off with their children and their stuff.
He's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to rape them, so y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they're raping everybody out here. In the book, Egwene and Perrin hang out with this group for a while. They travel with them, and then they have to leave them because they realize that, you know, we're a danger to these guys, and so they get separated. Looking back on this episode, I probably would have had the majority of it be them traveling with the Tuatha'an, and then by the end of it, them deciding we are putting these people in danger because at the end, let's see, I'm on chapter 33 at this point, and the latest thing to have happened to Egwene and Perrin is they get captured by the White Cloaks. So that's probably where I would have ended their story in this episode. I would have had them get captured by the White Cloaks because they see that they're being pursued by the White Cloaks even though they're with this train of guys, and they're like, you know what, we don't want, these people are pacifists and we don't want to cause them trouble, so we're just going to part ways and take the danger with us. So they can part ways and get caught by the White Cloaks. That's how I would have written this part. Because at the end of this, what did we have? We had the majority of the episode being Egwene and Perrin walking cold and hungry, trying to start a fire, being chased by wolves, and then meeting up with this train of hippie gypsies. And that's it. And that's just not a whole lot. So I really want to know from people who are book super fans and also love the show, can you explain to me at this point
what about it is making you excited about the next episodes? Because for me, I'm on chapter 34 and I'm looking at this going, a lot of it is nonsensical, and the things that are interesting are being portrayed in a boring way. I just don't feel that excitement about going to the next episode, honestly, except to see what stupid thing are these writers going to write next. I mean, I have material for 2 other videos based off of poor writing already. I've got the Lan and Nynaeve interaction, which will be a video, and I've got the singing, stopping all action to listen to a guy sing a song video that I'm going to do. But yeah, tell me, what is it that makes you excited about the next episode? Because for me, I'm just not feeling it. But that's it for this episode. I will be uploading again for episode 4 in about 5 days. So please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you're feeling really generous, check out my Patreon or Ko-fi. I do prefer Ko-fi. And be good to yourself.
I'll see